Hello, I'm Roaster Cat, and I am here with Kyle Ramage, co-founder of Black and White Coffee Roasters, and we're going to talk about Black and White Coffee Roasters. We're going to do green coffee to roasted and philosophy to practical implementation, and how Black and White does what it does.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Could you give first just a brief bio of who you are?
Yeah, so I'm Kyle. I'm the green buyer here at Black and White Coffee. That's one of my functions, but one of the founders as well. So kind of been around since the inception in 2017, and before that as well. I guess I've been around since I was born, but whatever. I've been doing Black and White
stuff for a while.
Coffee stuff for quite a while. Cafe stuff with my König before that, and then Black and White since 2017.
2017, awesome. Mm-hmm. So what was the idea behind Black and White when you started?
Right, so through the competition scene, we ended up having just lots of relationships with producers that were a bit more intimate than you would normally have as a coffee professional, where we'd meet them, or we'd meet them at trade shows, or have their coffee, or have access to their coffees. And so we just kept meeting rad people who had crazy good coffees, especially because the competition scene kind of is just the best all around the world. And it's interesting to see different viewpoints coming to that same idea from different vantage points. So that was a lot of the original impetus of the Black and White way was, I'm not just tasting with American buyers, I'm tasting with American buyers, with Japanese buyers, with other competitors all over Europe, competitors all over Asia. And that was really the big spark that kind of pushed the idea into a reality. Probably the kind of the nexus of all that was the World Barista Championship when it was in Seattle. Yes, when Charles Babinski got second, and Sasha Sestic won. That was a huge jumping off point where I was the rep for my König at the time, and so I was the show technician for all the grinders. So I ended up tasting with Maxwell Kelowna Dashwood, a little bit with the team Ona, with Charles and that team at Go Get 'Em. Who else? There's a few other people. Kyle Freze, who was Sudden and is doing his own thing now. But yeah, there's a lot of rad people that ended up meeting in that particular moment that really pushed a lot of the selection of good ideas that is Black and White, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so you're getting kind of a global perspective on what was kind of at the forefront of things in the coffee industry from all over the world.
Definitely, yeah, because they all just come to one building, which is incredible. So you can learn a lot. You can learn a lot from the going to the barista competition, just seeing what these crazy people are up to. So
yeah. So then you started Black and White in 2017, and what was your let's talk about like roasting philosophy or green buying and roasting philosophy.
Sure, yeah. So the green buying was pretty heavily influenced by competition. So we had a lot of coffees that would be more competition-esque the entire time we've been doing this thing. That's also where a lot of our more direct relationships kind of resided, like Neguo or these crazy coffees from Panama that are so beautiful. But so basically, we went at it interestingly backwards, if it makes sense. It definitely wouldn't be the progression you would make if you were logically planning it, right? So it's like
you didn't think of a business plan and then executed it.
No.
You thought of the coffees you wanted to bring and then started a business around it.
Yes. So it's like we had these relationships with these competition producers, and then we just figured out how to make it a thing, how to make it work. And of course, Black and White or any coffee roaster is not only competition coffees, not all. Well, there may be some. There are some very specialized roasters around the country and world as well. I mean, Hydrangea is probably one of those coffees are all stunners. I haven't had a not stunner from them, so it's very interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we had these relationships with these people, and we had these access to these coffees that were kind of on the edge for a lot of people, especially in 2017. Anaerobic coffees didn't exist really,
right?
Because you went from my year, I competed. Lim competed with a wash coffee. I used a honey from Neguo, and then my year was the first year you start seeing anaerobics really show up. Some 90 plus coffees, some Jameson Savage coffees. And then the next year is like, it's been mostly anaerobic coffees from there on out. So, it was pretty avant-garde. And so the roasting philosophy came not out of like, that is my purest expression of coffee or whatever. It's like, okay, cool, we have these really interesting coffees. They're very expressive. Okay, now how do we roast those coffees to be as expressive as we can make them while making sure that they're like palatable and drinkable? We're definitely not like the lightest roasters on the planet. Some people are going to hear that and be like, wow, they roast so light. And then some people are going to see like, wow, they roast so dark. And I'm like, hey guys, stop.
It's a range.
It's fine. It doesn't matter. No, roasting is very interesting. It's very dependent on water and machines you have access to, the coffees you have access to. And so we've used a lot of pretty high fermentation coffees. And those coffees, when they're roasted like quite light, can for me come across like quite vinegary or sour or spiky or rough. And so flavor movement is really important. So we try to roast in order to make a coffee be as expressive from hot to cold as possible. Because I love when a coffee is one way hot and a different way cold or cool, or as it's cooling, it's moving around. Because I want the experience to kind of morph with the thing. That's largely because of my other tasting background stuff is beer and spirits. Largely American, largely corn-based spirits, bourbon, whatever, rye, bourbon, rye. American spirits, bourbon, rye. But I really want all those experiences to be similar to that as well. Like I want to have, my ideal experience would be one very aromatic, and then one way when it's first poured, and then as it's aerating or cooling or warming in a lot of cases for wine as well, they're actually just changing again. So.
Yeah. So how does your roasting approach then kind of accomplish those goals?
Right. So that's always the intent, is to make the coffee as complex as possible. So we design the roasting profiles to just be all sensory based. So we have some ideas. We move coffees relatively fast compared to some other roasters. Even not all Loring roasters. We're probably in the speed of filter roasts. We're probably on the low side of the middle, if that makes sense. We're not doing 5-minute roasts. We're not doing 12-minute roast for filter, but like, in that like 9.5 to kind of 11-minute roast, really depending on what our goal is for the coffee. As far as temperatures go, probably on the low side of the middle of the global concept of coffee color. It's not, it's not combusting, and it's not like not cracked yet. So which is kind of what you see in specialty around the world. So yeah, we're kind of for Loring temperature probes, which they're not going to equate to anything else. But for Loring,
if you don't roast on a Loring,
it doesn't matter. Don't listen to these numbers. They don't matter at all. On the low side for us, like 406, and on the high side for like a very dark roast would be like 440.
And you mentioned Lorings. Was that a specific decision in order to accomplish the?
That was one of the few things that we actually did very intentionally. I was basically consulting for a company that we ended up acquiring to make black and white back alley coffee roasters in Wake Forest. And he's like, hey, if money was no object, what would you purchase? And I was like, I'd probably buy a Loring. And here's this article, not this article, it was a video series that the Nordic Barista Cup put out way back in the day. And of course, those roasters are were my heroes at the time. Tim Wendelboe, it was Klaus, and there was a couple other roasters as well, so Coffee Collective and Tim Wendelboe, kind of that general, kind of two heavy hitters in that area for me. If you're not on that list, I'm very sorry. I'm a bit old. So there was basically like, they had roasted the same Kenyan coffee and were loving it. And then they just all basically unanimously in the whole room were like, this is the best one. And then Tim went on a kind of diatribe explaining what was happening there and what he believed this roasting technology was actually doing to the coffee and why it worked for what he wanted out of coffee. I was like, oh, wow, that's incredible. I want that roaster. I had no idea how much they cost or how to roast coffee at that point, honestly. So we ended up purchasing that company, and so that was like one of the few things that was like very intentional, and it's been kept intentional, as you can kind of see behind us. The East Coast Loring showroom is here in Raleigh. It's not official; it's the unofficial East Coast Loring showroom. Still waiting on that one group, or so the one pounder.
The tiny little.
Yeah,
one.
I'm still waiting on it.
Those are cute.
Hear this? Cute. Yeah. Anyways, they said no multiple times. It's fine. But yeah, so the Loring ends up being quite a quick roaster, it's challenging to like work with as if you're a very visual learner, because the outside of the coffee looks quite light, but the inside's going to be more developed than you might expect.
Right.
That's the best way I've had it described is fluid air. So it works like a liquid, and so it's basically a little air sous vide. It gets the inside very, very similar to the outside. Yeah. Which is cool. So Loring's on purpose, and then we had to learn how to roast on them because I'm used to like. Before I only roasted on drum roasters, which a fast roast on a drum roaster is like 12 minutes.
Right, that's as quick as you can.
Yeah, and a 12-minute roast on Loring, usually not great. They're usually not, for filter, they're not great to me. And then figuring out batch sizes and how to make those work and what works for us, because we're a bit of a just-in-time facility. We don't roast and then take orders for those. We just roast what we need for the orders based on like hopeful math.
Yeah. Well, I'll get to like the practical implementation of like, how do you calculate batch sizes and stuff. But like kind of back to Loring, because I remember I started roasting on Loring in 2017 as well. And at that point, like at least the general consensus I feel like was like roasting on a Loring is going to create roasty notes. It's going to be baked. It's going to whatever.
Yeah.
But clearly, obviously, now in 2025, like the top roasters in the world are using Lorings. So what was your process to learning how to roast on a Loring then?
It's all flavor based, all just tasting. So we've always try to taste every batch if we possibly can. Sometimes it gets pretty challenging. We do taste everything we put out. Sometimes we'll back blend stuff together to make them homogeneous. And tasting with someone who is a helpful taster. Tasting by yourself kind of is helpful if you're very good, if you're a very learned taster. But the thing is, you don't become a learned taster by yourself.
Until you do.
You typically need to taste with someone else who can kind of guide you and teach you the ropes, and then you can kind of go on from there. So people I look back on, of course, a lot of competition stuff. My business partner, Lim, was huge in tasting for espresso in particular. I mean, those guys, all the competition baristas, the ones I named earlier, those people were super helpful. But also like Tim Hill at Counterculture was, at the time he was with Counterculture, now he's with Atlantic Specialty, but was super like fundamental in my learning of how to taste and how to become a better taster. And then events like Best of Panama, which I had access to in 2017 also, and then Cup of Excellence and things like that. Really just continue to foster and continue that education as you go along, which is what you have to do. You don't become like a psychotic taster who tastes coffee every day or wine or beer or spirits or whatever. But you don't just stop doing that. Yeah. You have to try to turn that stuff off when you go to a restaurant or you go to an event, so you don't become like a problem.
Yeah. You're not dissecting every little thing when everybody's trying to enjoy it.
Happens with every industry though. Music's the same way, of course. Design, all those kind of things.
So you were kind of developed your palate to calibrate again to like the global world.
Oh always tasting, more influenced by international roasters than I would say by like domestic roasters. Definitely were some. I definitely don't want to say that I wasn't influenced by those roasters, but especially when it comes to sourcing, we're much more akin to other roasters around the world. Maybe in Japan or China or even in Eastern Europe now.
Yeah. So tell me more about you just mentioned sourcing. Tell me more about Black and White's sourcing approach and how you choose which coffees to bring into your menu. Because also Black and White go, as you mentioned earlier, like you bring in a lot of coffees.
A lot of coffees. I think it was what was it? It averaged out being like 2.5 a week.
Yeah, more than 2 new coffee releases
a week,
every week.
Yeah.
Which is pretty wild.
Yeah, we did 6 a couple weeks ago because it just happened to go that way. My wife writes copy for us, and she was very upset.
She had a lot of work to do that week. So how do you source the coffees, or how do you, when you're presented with a table of samples, how do you pick what you're going to bring in?
Wow. Okay, cool. Yeah, one's a little bit more of a philosophical question, and one's a little bit more of a mechanical question, which is fine. Philosophically, I just want to show the most interesting coffees that are beautiful on the planet, right? But I don't have as many boundaries as other people do. So some of the dear coffee friends who I respect immensely just don't like fermentation in the way that I enjoy fermentation, or they don't like ideas of coffee preparation or coffee processing. So there's a few people who don't like the thermal shock stuff. There's a lot of people who don't like the co-ferments, like a lot of people who don't like the co-ferment stuff. And then some of those are for like ideological concepts, and some of them are they're really intense. Co-ferments are quite intense, but often some of them are gross.
We've tasted some that are hard to drink.
Yes.
But some can be great.
Very challenging. Yeah, a challenging drinking experience, I'd call that. But yes, so it's like I said, especially that part of the industry is so new. We don't understand like the defects associated with beer or wine, and so learning with other tasters like that can also be very, very, very helpful. If you run across like a master Cicerone, which there's not but like 100 in the world, so good luck. Even an advanced level Cicerone will be able to help you understand the defects associated with beer, which are much more common in coffee than you might expect. If you've ever had a coffee that had like this like a buttery component to it, that's a defect from beer. So it's a fermentation defect. So it's just fascinating concepts that you end up learning from those people.
cross-pollinating from other industries.
Yes.
Cool. So then in tasting coffees on the table,
Oh, yeah.
How do you
back
pick?
from the philosophical to the mechanical.
Yeah.
So really interesting coffees. I want to then, I'll start assessing coffees. My nose ends up being a lot more important than a lot of people's. People are like, oh, I don't really care about the dry. It's everything. The only way I passed the Q was my nose on the dry. That's
Know your strengths.
Yeah, know your strengths. Yeah.
Your strengths.
No, who got it? It's a bit embarrassing. It's okay.
I'll edit that out.
No, please leave it in. So my dry is very important for me, and because I want a coffee that has a journey, that has, because your time with the coffee, especially if you're preparing at home, doesn't start when you get the cup. It starts when you start grinding the coffee, right? So when you can smell the coffee as you're about to start brewing it, like we just did a few minutes ago, we're like, whoa, this coffee is packed with fragrance, whether it be big sweet chocolatey stuff or crazy fruity stuff or like funky winey stuff, it can all be really amazing, but it starts there. So I really want and for me, the data points, how I put them together, end up being that my nose is often more right than anything. It just happens to be that way. Like, I'll pretty much know a table of interest, because when you're tasting like 50 samples, okay, cool. I'll go through and smell them all. I'm like, okay, cool. Here's the 6 that I think are interesting, and we'll see how they work. If they end up becoming more intense with water or less, or if they fall apart or whatever, or if they have the bones that they need to kind of make it work. So that's my target. Basically, like I'll have a sheet of paper. If I'm just going to go pure blind, I very rarely cut purely blind, because we'll know like, oh, we have samples from Colombia, we have samples from Ecuador, we have samples from Uganda. Okay, cool, whatever. I know kind of what they're going to be like. But when it's ultra blind, I'll just take a sheet and just do the 1 through whatever number, and I'll just very quick notes, really scribbly. My handwriting's terrible, but really scribbly notes that. But I can kind of decipher my way back most times, and then star the ones or mark the ones I think, oh, these are going to be the special ones. And so I'm looking for, with a cup that's with water on it already, I'm looking for a cup that starts a certain way and then has a flavor arc that is continuous. So I want the flavors to kind of move up and crescendo without being spiky. Some coffees, like they feel disjointed, or they feel like they're unput together, or like, especially some blends, it can be that way, where like one component's like took on energy way more than the other, and you're like, wow, this is like roasty and sour, that's really bad. Or it may be like, oh, it has a beautiful fragrance, like it smells really lovely, but then it moves into savory or weird corny. We've had corn happen a few times, which is strange. But yeah.
Yeah, cool. And you just mentioned blends.
Yeah.
And I'm tying back to kind of the co-ferments as well. Like Black and White was one of the first to really push the co-ferments and anaerobics. And now you've been doing blends for a good long while, but really recently have been focusing on specifically like specialty forward blends.
Flavor leading blends. So it's like, that's how I think about them, but yeah.
So can you tell me more about the philosophy behind the flavor forward blends?
Right, so most coffee blending happens as a function of needing to be cost effective. So often think about it, I think James Hoffman called it fruit salad, which is pretty funny. Like when you just blend all amazing stuff together, it's going to awesome. So I took that to heart and I was like, okay, cool. Well, what if I made blends that were 100% not focused on them being cost effective? They were just focused on them being the most intense expression or the most balanced expression of the idea I'm going for. And then eventually we stumbled across trying to create profiles that mimicked other beverages or mimic other experiences in life, that we could start tying memories it all together, kind of make it a holistic experience. Because coffee, the reason we enjoy great coffee is it's not just one thing. It's not flavor, it's not just caffeine, it's not just ambiance in the cafe, it's not just experience at our house. It's all these things that kind of work together to be an enjoyable experience. Okay, cool, if I can make something nostalgic, I can also tap into another part of our mind that we might experience something. So those have been really, really, really fun. Like I think grape soda was the one that caught a lot of people as like this truly expressive, like mind-bending idea of what coffee could be. The gummy worms did that for a lot of people as well. We released in like November, December, November, October. More than I don't know.
The fall time.
Fallish.
Fall 24.
Candy times. So it's Halloween, I think.
Yeah.
But we're trying to like basically put these flavors together to just give these intense, but also like very nostalgic and very, very fun, super irreverent blends of coffee, if you will, where like if like washed Panama Geisha is the epitome of purity of coffee, if you will, which I don't think that's real. It seems very made up. Then these blends are the opposite side of those things. Like, okay, cool. This is one of the most silly willy, least serious things ever.
Yeah.
But it's super fun, super delicious.
Is your green buying and or roasting approach different for those blends than for single origin releases?
Sometimes they can be, yeah. So like when we release the chocolate covered strawberry coffee that we do for Valentine's, that one typically we would roast the chocolatey component a little different than we would normally roast a coffee, because we're actually looking to kind of not express some of the things. We usually use a pre-high fermentation natural, and then you try to like roast it a bit to where you'll start going like fruity, or it's like sour, then fruity, then kind of winey, and then you push it a little bit further, and it becomes this like dark chocolatey thing. That's always the goal. Mm-hmm. That can be quite tricky thing to do, but kind of balancing everything together, but it's very fun.
Yeah. And you mentioned earlier that you roast to order, or
right.
you don't roast a certain amount, sell that down. What was behind that decision?
So I'm a business school student originally before I got into coffee. So this concept of just in time. So it's the leanest, cleanest operating method, but it requires like quite a heavy amount of machinery and about a lot of labor. And you typically have to set those systems up as that system from the beginning. Yeah. To transition to just in time is very, very, very challenging. But so as I set the system up, I was just like, well, let's just make this like super lean, super clean, just in time system. But that was also what I knew from the counterculture times as well. So I just wanted to make it as clean as possible. And so I was like, okay, cool. That's how business school would do it. So let's just do it that way. And it's worked to our advantage and disadvantages over the years. There's not like one perfect way to do anything, but this keeps our inventory really clean. And we very rarely have overage, and we very rarely have like just coffee floating around the warehouse if we don't know exactly what it is.
Right. And that kind of ties back to the blends in terms of like post-roast, pre-roast.
Yeah.
What is the black and white philosophy on post-roast or pre-roast blends?
Yeah,
Some people get really
very hot about this concept. And I think that's totally cool. I definitely get it. A dear friend of mine, Rachel Apple, and I were chatting about that with, I think it was the blend that when Rachel worked for George Howell, Alchemy, the espresso blend that was it was 5 or 6, maybe more, a lot of components.
Yeah.
Were roasted all separately to solubility, and then they were blended back together to be like very harmonious.
Yeah.
We do it the exact opposite way. We just blend everything together and roast it. What we found
pre-roast blending.
Yeah, pre-roast blend for sure. I was a huge opponent of the concept until I started talking to Mark Michelson, who was roasting at the time for Onyx. He's like, no, man, just try it. And I'm like, okay, cool, fine, whatever. So I did it, and I was like, oh, okay. This is not any better, not any worse than what I'm used to. So this maybe is easier. And then when our head roaster came in, Matt, who's kind of head of operations now for Black and White, he was like, hey, we're going to stop this pre-roast blending stuff. I'm like, okay, that's fine. But you're going to have to prove it to me that it's worth the investment. And he's like, okay, fine. I'll do 6 batches. It'll be obvious which ones are post-roast blended. Oh, okay, great, fantastic. I believe you. Let's do it. We'll blind each other. It'd be great. We did the experiment. No statistical relevance to the data whatsoever. I think it may have been actually that all 3 of the pre-roast blends he preferred.
So and he then proved it to him. Proved pre-roasting to himself.
To himself. And then we did the same thing with some automation stuff on the 70, where we're trying to go like it's kind of me versus the machine kind of concept. Like who's better at roasting? And over a course of like months, we could find no statistical link together. It was just seemingly random which ones we preferred. It was just down to cup quality, seed quality. You could change your tail on for sure.
Yeah. Well, and that brings up another question of what is most impactful to final cup, do you think?
Ooh.
Green coffee, roasting approach, and or brewing?
Oh, okay.
Where do these stack up?
Wow. I mean, no matter how good at roasting you are, you're never going to roast quality into a coffee. Never. No one ever has. In the history of time, we've only taken it away. So some people are just better at balancing the add, the take. Because you need the chemical reactions to happen to make coffee taste like coffee. But typically there's something theoretically wrong. I don't know. So, man, it's hard for me to push away from that. Brewing, you're not going to brew quality into anything, too. You're just going to reveal. Mm-hmm. Now, sometimes you can kind of hide some stuff, but you can only hide a little bit. You can't hide a lot.
Yeah.
Like if your cup tastes like green peppers, if it's like big green pepper bomb, you're not getting that to go away anytime soon. If this cup's really nutty, you're not going to go away from that. Or like even obvious, like if it's the defect, it just is. It's phenol. It's just phenol. It's like pool water or iodine or whatever. I think green quality is going to be the biggest impact on anyone's menu. That's what I've always told roasters when they're first starting. Don't get so wrapped up in buying the cheapest coffees that you get a hold of because they make the most financial sense. Buy coffees that are great because it's much easier to turn like an 88-point coffee and then you serve it as an 86 because you kind of roasted it bad, because everyone roasts bad at the beginning. And I mean, if you've already roasted before, you can move the coffee and be good. But if you're starting a new roastery and you've never roasted before, commercially, you're going to be pretty bad at it.
You got to put in the reps.
The time is undefeated, right? Like there's no escaping time, whether it's in a wine barrel, whether it's in a whiskey barrel, whether it's in any craft, you can't escape time. Same thing's true in the inverse with coffee. You cannot escape fade. Fade is like Thanos, right? Like he is inevitable. Oh, that's a good quote. I like that one. You can have that for free.
Got it.
Because you can also have great coffee that was great coffee turn into bad coffee.
Really
fast sometimes.
Yeah. Well, and that seems like very in line with the entire philosophy that you have been talking about this entire time, where you started Black and White because you were tasting great coffees, tasting with the producers, seeing producers creating amazing things, and then you were like, oh, let's share this with more people.
Yeah, exactly. That's the idea. Behind the Black Label series in particular is a very accurate depiction of that, because these are competition coffees. Like 3 of the coffees that were served as Black Labels in the last 6 months, so 3 out of the last 6 were World represented coffee, World Barista Championship represented coffees.
Wow.
So 2 coffees from Jameson Savage, and then Jonathan Gasca's Natural Pacamara.
Nice.
So yeah.
Which I think I'm drinking.
I guess the wash.
Oh, this is the wash.
Shout
Shout out to Gasca though.
Ribs.
Yeah. And you mentioned a little bit like balancing cost and giving advice to roasters. Don't buy the cheapest stuff and work on it. Buy higher quality.
Yeah.
I mean, with pricing crisis and the coffee industry rapidly changing right now, how does Black and White balance the higher cost and still serving the same coffees you want to serve?
Right. So thankfully, a lot of the coffees that we end up working with that are super special are not really tied to that C market, right? So like when Jameson Savage's coffee is transacting at $100+ a pound, a $4 C market doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Right? So it's like, okay, cool.
Irrelevant.
So some of those at that hyper level, it's irrelevant, right?
Fields.
But even in like, we do a lot of coffees in the $12 to $14 a pound range, a lot of coffees in the $7 to $9 range. Like those coffees are valued based on the quality that they possess. So it's like a flavor quality price thing. Yeah. Where the other ones, like the C market coffees, are tied to like demand and availability. So once you get $1, $1.50 outside of the C, which is where a lot of coffees are, our warehouse are. You're not as pinned up by the C market as you would be, especially like I've seen natural coffees in Colombia haven't been as affected as wash coffees, which is odd. Sure. I've seen in Africa and Ethiopia, we saw for the first time ever wash grade 1 prices go above natural grade 1 prices. So it's an interesting world that we're living in, especially as markets are changing what they prefer a bit as well. I think the most market
on the consuming side.
The consuming side, yeah. The most market is Asia in particular. When I was buying coffee with Japanese buyers and Korean buyers and Chinese buyers, there was some of the funkiest coffees I've ever tasted. Like these are completely insane. Like a lot of the cocoa nib coffees, not the big whiny, funky. What we on our label would be like a blue or purple coffee, and some even further than that, getting into soy and savory and all kinds of interesting places, which was a step too far for me, but it's okay.
Different markets.
do your thing. But they have shifted dramatically to almost the inverse, where the coffees are mega clean. You're seeing a lot of like hyper clean, low fermentation coffees coming out, going to Asia. And I'm hearing that mostly from the suppliers who are giving me mostly funky stuff, because I still love it, or medium funky stuff.
Yeah. Well, and talking about trends or changes or development over time, this is kind of like last culminating question, how has Black and White changed from beginning to now? How has green buying and or roasting approach developed over these last 7 years?
Yeah, absolutely. The last 7, wow. A lot has changed, mostly, not, I wouldn't say necessarily philosophically. We have more coffees on the menu than we did at the beginning, but it's been like find beautiful coffees and share them with as many people as possible. The ethic has remained the same. Now the prices have gone up over the years, but the ethic has remained the same. We're trying to buy, source, roast coffees that people will drink. It's definitely different. I know a lot more now. Like again, the time is inescapable. So like 7 years of tasting 50 cups of coffee a day, it helps you to get better at tasting. It really does. Sometimes it makes your life miserable, but it's part of the deal. And then just more and more relationship. As we double down on relationships and focusing on producers, buying more and more coffees, exposing more and more people to different profiles of coffee has really changed. Because co-ferments didn't exist for sure in 2017. Well, they did the next year, we don't do.
They didn't exist for common consumption.
Yeah, the cinnamon coffee controversy of was it 2018, where it got third in the world with Matthew Theus. Not you, yes, excuse me. But I was on that tasting panel also. Sidebar. Different. The world has changed. Like there are so many more styles of fermentation. These thermal shock coffees, we weren't seeing them definitely in the volume we're seeing them now. Co-ferments weren't common or talked about. Colombia hadn't gotten into they weren't like they hadn't proliferated. Yeah, that's the right word. Into the whole market. It's been an interesting world. I think the coffee industry. Of course, we have the COVID boom. How do we even forget about the COVID boom for home brewers and roasters? Yeah. I mean, wow, what a huge thing it's been for us. I mean, wow. Without the support of people through COVID, Black and White would have not made it through COVID at all. When COVID hit, we had just opened a cafe in Rollsville, and we just moved the roaster to what was next door. And wow, we didn't have any money, but thankfully the community kind of rode for us and paid our bills, got us through that really hard time, but wow.
Yeah, so you have a big outlet with direct-to-consumer.
Yeah, that's a huge part for us. I mean, that's who we're actually marketing to, specifically our home consumer, home professionals, if you will. That's kind of who our market really is, because those are the people who are actually in the coffee dork, if you will, or the coffee aficionado, or whatever you want to classify that person as. The person who's really, really into coffee, they're actually impacting, whether they're a barista or not a barista commercially for money, they're impacting what their cafes are, what they're asking for in the cafes, what the cafes are buying. It's just really interesting kind of, cyclical is not really the right word, but there's influence moving around everything, because then also what those people are asking for, purchasing, moving, is what then people ask from us or people like us as roasters. And so you start seeing the demand be focused like in these interestingly quite short communication circles, where it's moving all the way back to the producers. Producers want to make it because people are buying it.
Yeah. Well, and now with Instagram and WhatsApp, like a consumer and a producer can talk about the coffee. Yeah, absolutely. We had Yaren Sakastume from the Sakastume families in Honduras. Yes, Instagram is on there a decent amount, not crazy, but on there definitely. And today, one of our customers posted a bag and tagged him. And then he reposted, it's like, oh, what a cool little quirky, these people I've never met, they're on kind of different continents, but they're having this crazy communication about quality through language barrier, just Instagram. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. Cool. Well, I have a last bit that's rapid fire.
Let's go.
Rapid fire questions. Okay.
I'll make a fool myself. Let's go.
Ready. Coffee roasting, art or science?
Neither. I think if you don't apply the scientific method to life, your life's going to be really challenging. So it is scientific, but also artistic. But it's not art. I have a very high bar for what art is. In fact, a lot of the stuff you see behind it is not art. There's one over there that is created by a person who is an artist who intended to evoke emotion and feeling through his chosen method, and that was the point. Where that would mean also that a lot of artistic things aren't art because they weren't actually done from pure place. So that's where I hang up with coffee. Yes, it is an artistic expression. However, it is not art because that is not its principal goal. Principal goal is to make money because we all have to eat stuff.
Sure. So art or science? Neither.
Neither. Both.
Both?
But even
both
better,
neither.
both.
There we go. There we go.
Both and neither, yes.
Yeah. Drip or espresso?
Drip.
When you're roasting, do you listen to music or podcasts?
Music.
Light or dark roast?
Lights-ish.
Death before decaf, agree or disagree?
So disagree. Decaf is for lovers.
Yes.
Absolutely. I love coffee at night, and I love having decaf. And we are releasing the best decaf I've ever tasted in my whole entire life that is actually 100% decaffeinated, or 99 point whatever, legally decaffeinated. Next week, which is incredible.
Ooh, great.
Wilton Benitez,
Ooh.
Thermal Shock, Castillo.
Ah,
Blown away.
decaf? Oh,
Decaf.
I can't wait.
It's incredible. I'll brew some.
Great. Hot or fast or low and slow?
Hot and fast.
Development time or DTR? Development time. Ratio.
Ooh. Usually ratio.
I already know the answer to this because we've already talked about it, but Omni roast or roasting for filter and espresso? Or I guess we didn't talk about it.
We didn't, but we oddly do both. But yeah, Omni for what that's what the Europeans would say anyway. So we'll go Omni. Yeah, I just roast coffee.
Well, this one we did talk about. Post-roast blend or pre-roast blend?
Pre.
Great. That's all of my rapid fire questions.
Very fun.
Cool. So takeaways, main takeaways that I've gotten from this are at Black and White's approach really heavily focuses on the green coffee, on the flavors available in coffee,
Right.
on a global perspective and global calibration to
Yes.
other roasters
Constant.
and to producers.
Yeah. Constant, yeah. Absolutely.
Pre-roast blending. What else? What other takeaways would you like people
Now,
to have?
competition is so baked in. It's so obvious when we start talking about the thing, but like, oh gosh, this is actually, I think we probably are the company that's been impacted most by barista competition as far as like how much it's proliferated into the whole entity. There's like maybe some of the smaller roasters in Europe would have more, or like Rosa up in Canada or whatever, but it's just infiltrated its way into every little nook and cranny of the whole thing. And the same super fanatical, quality focused thing that is barista competition or all the coffee competitions is like just lived out or in different ways throughout the whole country. Kind of different.
Yeah, definitely different, but has worked for you clearly throughout the years.
It's been fun.
Awesome. Well, great. Thank you for the interview, and catch you next time.
Yeah, dude. All right, I just coughed all up in your thing. I'm so sorry. That's really embarrassing.
No, it's perfect.
Cut that one out or go back and overdub that.
Bye. Bye.
Wow.